Okay, for experiment 2, we are going to roll a 6-sided die, and we're going to, maybe what we want to know here is to figure out what's the probability of rolling an even. Okay, so let's go through what these different things are, right? Probability, we want to find a quantitative number, how likely is it to roll an even. So for trials, every time I roll the die into my dish here, that's going to be a trial. And this experiment, we're going to do, more than one trial. Okay, let's talk about the sample space, because that's kind of sometimes the hard part. How many different outcomes are there from rolling a 6-sided die? Well, there's 6, right? 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So the sample space here is the set of all possible outcomes in a trial. So these are the different outcomes that I have, 1 through 6. Okay? The sample space is just a list or a set, and the size of the sample space in this case is 6. Okay? Now the event that we're looking for is even, right? So an event is an individual outcome or a specified combination of outcomes. The event we're looking for here is that the number that we roll is even. So we could get a 1 through 6. We have to decide whether that's an even or odd number. Okay, so we're going to go through this. We're going to do an experimental probability. We're going to calculate a theoretical probability, and we're going to compare them. Okay, so trial number 1. Okay, trial number 1, I got a 1. So let's mark that with a little tally there. Okay, trial number 2. Okay, I also got a 1. Okay, trial number 3. I got a 4. Okay, trial number 4. I got a 5. And trial number 5. I got a 6. Let's actually do one more so that we have an even number of trials. Okay, trial number 6, I got a 4. Okay, so let's do our experimental probability, okay? In this experiment, there have been 6 trials. I forgot to keep track of that. If I want the probability of an event, we're talking about an even, right? That's the event we're looking for. The probability of an even, which we would do like this, P of even, that's the probability of getting an even, is the number of times we got an even over the number of trials that happened. Okay? So we know we had 6 trials. Let's see how many even numbers we rolled. Well, we got 4 and 4 and then 6. So there's 3 of them, right? Which is equals 1/2 or 0.5 or 50%. Right? Okay, so half the time we rolled an even. Now, it doesn't have to be like that, right? We could have just randomly rolled more odds in this case. But the idea is the more that we do this, the more that we do our experiments, the closer that this should be to our theoretical probability. So let's calculate that. Okay, theoretical probability of an event. Well, the probability of getting an even is, in your book it says the number of outcomes in the event. Okay, what that means is how many different ways can I get an even number? Like what are all the different possibilities of me getting an even? Well, I can get a 2, a 4, or a 6, right? So there's 3 different ways for me to get an even number. And assuming that these are all equally likely, there's 3 ways for me to get an even, and there's 6 possible outcomes, okay? Which again is going to be 50% or 1/2. Okay, so this is what we expect. If I were to ask you what's the probability of rolling an even, I would expect you to say, well, there's 3 evens and 6 total, so 50-50, right? It's 50-50 shot. That's true. That's your theoretical probability. Now, in practice, it may not be exactly 50% for your experiment. In our case, it was, because we kind of got lucky. But, if I only did 6 trials, it's really possible that most of those or a lot of those came out odd, right? It's just kind of how it happens to be. But if I did it over and over and over, like 1,000 or 10,000 times, I would expect that about half of them are coming up odds and about half of them are coming up even. Okay? So the more trials you do, the more you start to see that this will match this. Okay? Which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of, again, the connection between experimental probability and theoretical probability. In the next video, we'll talk a little bit more about this one and the formula and how to find sample space and number of outcomes.